Welcome to a new episode of Covetrus Connected Care. I'm your host, Nicole Knight, and I'm Content Marketing Manager at Covetrus. Thank you for joining us. Today's show is a birthday celebration of sorts. A year ago, Covetrus launched a first-of-its-kind solution called Covetrus Pulse. Pulse is a cloud-based veterinary operating system, or vOS. But what is a vOS and how do practices stand to benefit from this technology? Now that we're a year in, we thought it'd be the ideal time to find out what we've heard and what we've learned from the veterinary practices that are using Pulse. Here to help us is Benny Estes, Director of Product Management at Covetrus. Benny, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nicole. I am so happy to be here.
Glad to have you. So for starters, tell us a bit about yourself. Any four-legged or two-legged family members at home?
Yeah, I have a menagerie of animals at my home. I'm on about five acres here in California. We have horses, dogs, cats, chickens. We had goats. We do not currently have goats, but we'll be getting those again soon, as well as gophers and ground squirrels, but those are not necessarily pets, if you know what I mean. And we actually have a baby horse that is going to be joining our family very soon. One of our mares is pregnant, so we have a full cam set up, and we're watching her and in constant communication with our veterinarian, who's going to come and help us deliver that foal.
Oh, congratulations. Sounds like a full house.
Yes, it is.
So from your job title, it sounds like you're very involved with Covetrus' software solutions. Can you tell our listeners about Covetrus Pulse?
Yeah, I'd love to. Before talking about Pulse as it is today, I think it's important to take a look back at the history and how Pulse came to be the successful veterinary operating system that it is today. So Covetrus Pulse is the evolution of eVet Practice, and many of our listeners may be familiar with eVet Practice as it was the leading cloud practice management system in North America. And what we decided about 2 years ago at Covetrus is we looked at our software solutions and we surveyed and talked with lots of veterinarians, vet techs, receptionists, practice managers to hear about the pain points and struggles that they were having with their practice management system as they were using it today. Because we knew that there was a gap in the practice management systems that were on the market in that time, 2 years ago, compared to where veterinarians and their staff wanted a practice management system to be. And so what we ended up doing as a software technology team at Covetrus is we made the decision to evolve eVet Practice, which was the cloud practice management software at Covetrus, into a new product that we ultimately launched last year, a new category of product called a veterinary operating system that we now know as Pulse. So Pulse is the evolution of the previous market-leading cloud practice management software, eVet Practice. And what we've done with Pulse is we've put a flag in the ground and we've said, we hear you veterinarians, we hear you practice management or practice managers and all of the staff who work at veterinary practices. You want a software that is easy to use, that doesn't have a lot of clicking, that surfaces the right information at the right time. And most importantly, you don't want to be forced to manage dozens of applications to run your business. And so with Pulse, what we did is we challenged ourselves and the industry to create a veterinary operating system, which brings all of the disparate pieces of technology into a single interface known and what we've stamped as a veterinary operating system. And it's interesting because what I've seen since we launched Pulse and this new category of a product called a veterinary operating system last year is I've seen other companies, organizations, and products start to use the same terminology that we use around veterinary operating system. So as you look at the landscape of practice management systems out there, they are now starting to refer to themselves as an ecosystem, as a platform, as the operating system of a practice. And so not only did we launch Pulse, but I really feel like Covetrus is leading the charge in creating a unified experience for veterinarians and their staff around the practice management system and evolving it from just a system focused on practice management to a piece of software that integrates all the pieces of technology that a veterinary practice needs to run. And an example of that that we've done with Pulse is if you look at some of the core features that Covetrus Pulse offers, it offers everything that you would traditionally be thought of that would come with a practice management system. So your calendar, a scheduler, invoicing, automated reminders, inventory tracking, procedures and labs, and all of those that you think of a practice management system are built in. But what we've done with Pulse is we've also built into the interface other pieces of technology that traditionally weren't included in the practice management interface. And an example of that is around an online pharmacy. And we're able to do that because we have such a tight integration between different pieces of technology. Now, you look at any other practice management system today that is not in the veterinary operating system way of integrating things. And so you look at the time it takes between those two experiences, and you start to realize the amount of time savings that practices using Pulse realize just by being on this veterinary operating system when you really dive into things.
And that was going to be one of my big questions for you. And you kind of answered it already very, very, very well, is helping folks understand, like, what is the difference between a practice management solution, a PIMS that they're perhaps used to, and a vOS. But I think that you explained that very well, that it's more of this ecosystem of integrated apps, including the prescription management, so someone doesn't have to. And I can't remember some study that I saw a couple years ago about the number of different screens and applications that a practice would have open at one time. And I believe it was like 6 to 10. It was a really, really high number. And so it sounds like the vOS ecosystem glues all that together so they're not toggling throughout their day, opening this thing and then this thing to get to care for animals and pull a medical record or have a prescription filled.
That's exactly right. And, part of what I do a lot is go and visit practices. So I by no means am I every week sitting behind my computer here. The way that I operate, and I ask my team to operate, is to immerse yourself in a practice. It doesn't even have to be a Pulse practice. It could be a practice on any of our other on-premise software solutions like Avamark or Implement, but go in there and observe and see just how many applications are required to run a veterinary business, because it's a complex business that we are supporting from a technology perspective. And even if you take the online pharmacy piece, what Pulse also does and integrates into the same interface is client communications. You can text customers directly from the Pulse whiteboard or the Pulse client profile or the Pulse medical record. So you don't have to get a separate window to text your customer. You can even do automated text messages with templates. So you're not having to type the same thing over and over again. The same thing with wellness plans. Covetrus recently acquired a company called Veterinary Care Plans, or VCP, which we now call Covetrus Care Plans. And Pulse integrates a lot of that functionality directly into the pet's medical record, so that there's that continuation of data that is flowing from what was historically a separate application, but now you can manage a lot of that from within your interface. It's an important distinction I want to make, that Covetrus as a technology provider does have or own several pieces of technology that are needed to run a veterinary practice, But in no way are we a closed system. Pulse itself is agnostic. We have over 300 partners that we integrate with at varying levels, depending on the practice need. And we want to make sure that Pulse can support practices no matter which vendor or partner they're using and support them in their business.
Pulse was released a year ago. So let's talk about what we've heard from our customers. What have you heard when you are going to practices, like you said, about efficiency gains maybe that they're seeing or time savings in the practice, because those are two giant issues these days?
Yeah. Yeah, you boil things down to it. And what we as a technology team want to ensure is that we're creating technology that improves efficiency and saves time. And there's a couple different ways that you can measure that. But this last year, since launching Pulse last May, has been absolutely spectacular on the Pulse front. We've had a record number of new practices onboarding. And what that really speaks to is that the value proposition that we set forth when we launched Pulse to the market is resonating. We've seen customers practices and customers, once they see what we're doing in Pulse and the direction we're going with integrating the different pieces of technology to a single interface, it's like their brain clicks, or they say, yes, finally, this is what we need. We need all the technology providers in the veterinary space to work together to build these great experiences. And we've seen mass migrations from other practice management systems over to Pulse, especially from some corporates as well, where they've made the decision to be all in on Pulse. And so they start migrating their groups of clinics that are using sometimes 6-7 different practice management systems within their group, consolidate over to Pulse. And we've also seen an influx of veterinary technology partnerships that want to integrate their specific product into Pulse in some form or another, which is something that we are absolutely for doing because it supports the business of a veterinary practice. We did some research a couple months back, and what we found is that just from switching to Pulse from a separate practice management system, it can save a staff member upwards of 22 minutes per day, just with some of those Pulse efficiencies. And part of the reason why is because we've ingrained two themes within our Pulse development pillars, if you will, our product pillars. And one of those is customization and one of those is personalization. So what I like to say, and what my team lives and breathes every day, is that we build Pulse and our technology to adapt to the workflows of the practice. We don't believe that the practice should be forced to change their workflows to meet with for whatever software they're using, which presents its unique opportunities and challenges in building software, because you have an equine practice, you have a emergency specialty, and your general practice for companion animals. They all have different needs. Once you actually understand and if you visit those practices, they become quite clear. So to say that Pulse is a one-size-fits-all for every single practice out there, I think is misleading. And so depending on the practice that onboards with Pulse, we understand how they operate their practice, what kind of pets they see. Are you mobile? Do you have a reception area, or how many exam rooms? We really understand how that practice wants to use Pulse, and then we can make sure Pulse is customized to best meet that workflow. And so some of the things that I'm really excited to get out this year that will continue to provide efficiencies and time savings is an updated exam form experience that is touchscreen friendly. And some of that feedback we've heard is vet techs will be in the same exam room as a veterinarian, and they want to be able to tap through a tablet or an iPad and quickly perform an exam, and even use voice dictation to make that exam quicker. And so when we put these initial exam form experience out to a select group of customers, they mentioned that they could see an additional patient per day just from the time savings of the new exam form.
Wow. And that's in addition to the research about the 22 minutes of time savings a day.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's really good. Good stuff. I think I have one more question for you before I let you go, Benny. And we know that burnout remains an issue in our community. I'm just curious, with the time savings that we're hearing about and maybe some other efficiency gains, have we heard anything from the practices that have Pulse about morale or stress levels, just how they're doing, how they're feeling?
Yeah, we have. And we do surveys, monthly surveys that go out to different randomized cohorts of customers. And so we're constantly getting a pulse, pun intended, on our customer base to hear how they're feeling and what stresses and how we can use technology to improve their lives. And I mean, I visited practices and you could absolutely feel the stress level that sometimes creep up when something unexpected happens. Like I was visiting a practice and it was your basic grooming visit that turned into needing to put the patient on a breathing support. And it was like immediately everyone stopped what they're doing, swarmed to ensure that the particular dog would have the support it needed, and then went back to their to doing whatever they were doing.
And the dog was okay?
The dog was okay. Everything was good. Everything was good.
Oh my goodness. How stressful.
One particular comment has always been ingrained in my mind, and that was that, I mean, the person said something like, thank you, you've allowed me to get home and spend time with my family and not have to update medical records when I get home. And, it's funny, one of the big value props that I've seen different products use about being a cloud PIMS is you can finish your exam forms at home. You can do things at home or on the go. But when I'm thinking about what I want my technology to do is I don't want to necessarily bring my work home with me after I go to the practice. And so that's where I'm pushing for. And that would really make what I do and what my team does every day a success, is if we can enable veterinarians and their staff to not have to bring their work home with them. We want them to be able to spend time with their family, with their pets at home, and doing whatever they want to do. And so the type of time savings and efficiencies gains that Pulse offers should enable that. Now, it's not to say that someone's never going to bring Pulse home with them, because that also is one of the advantages, is being cloud-based. You're able to log in from home or really anywhere in the world on your phone, as long as you have a mobile connection, and look at your upcoming appointments and things like that. So yeah, that is one comment that I really loved hearing and seeing day to day in how Pulse helps our customer base lessen the stress in what is a very stressful business.
Right. That's what we're all about. Helping them and have the time to go home and recharge and have a weekend and enjoy their friends and family.
Yep.
Well, this has been a super fun, informative conversation, Benny. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.